Hi, this is Scott V. Continuing my series on how our little town of Santa Fe got started. Um, Again, we started with this one building here, and as you saw last time, we built the first few facilities for processing ores, and then we built a power station and a town power grid. What I didn't show you is the inside of my little thermal expansion area. And it's really funny how these things evolve over time. Because early on I found I don't really have a need for a lot of silver, so I used some silver ore blocks as decoration. After we kicked a Naga's butt down into Twilight Forest, I disassembled some of the wall around his sanctuary and brought these Naga stone blocks home to help decorate the town. So it's just funny how the towns evolve. Here in the thermal expansion lab, this was my first real taste of I set this up before setting up my regular industrial craft stuff, just to see how the thermal expansion ore processing works. And I just find that these machines are just really quietly just great machines. That they do what they need to do. They output materials into pipes without needing engines, and they're all just they just sit there quietly and do what you expect them to do. For example, let me throw some tin here in the industrial smelter. This uses ores plus sand and gives you double the ore plus slag, which you can turn into a rock wool, which you can use like wool. These were originally two peat engines, but eventually I tapped into the city's power grid. So this is a LV transformer, and this is pulling electricity from the power grid. Here is a pulverizer, which again will take your ore and double it. This time it makes dust out of it. All these thermal expansion machines are just really like them. The more charged up they are, the faster they are. So as this gets lower and lower, the process will slow down. But if you power them up first, you can get really good performance out of these guys. And as you can see, it outputs into these Buildcraft pipes without needing any engine of any kind. So these, I just really love my thermal expansion machines. Now, what I mentioned earlier is we don't really have endless resources in Feed the Beast like you would in Tech-It, due to the equivalent exchange letting you kind of cheat and make any item out of any other item. So I have to be really selective about what things I automate. The one thing I really need a lot of is pistons and redstone engines, so I have a little automat that will make those. One thing I do whenever there's a series of machines that I might need a lot of is I build what I call a blueprint room. And what that is these are automatic crafting tables with the blueprints for the various blocks and machines I might need. Now, one reason this is just super efficient is I also keep them pretty well stocked with any really common materials. So in this case, all I need to do is plop 4 iron in there to get my machine frame. I don't have iron with me at the moment, but as you can see, again, I keep these stocked with the really common stuff, so all I need to do to make this machine is I need a machine frame, a reception coil, and a bucket, and poof, I can have an induction smelter in a few seconds. So a lot of times I like to make these blueprint rooms, and sometimes I'll just put the recipe on the wall if it's something really trivial, like the coil that goes in these bottom slots, this weird coil. But as you can see, it's nice. I can come in here and quickly make machines, and many of the item slots are already stocked up. So just a very efficient way, with somewhat limited resources to automate some of the more common machines. Even with NEI, the never enough items, sure, you can come in here and you can type pulverizer, and you can look up the recipe for pulverizer. I mean, yes, you can do that, but it's just, sometimes you have some issues with it blacking out some of your items. You can get lost in here, so some odd things. So a lot of times I just make those little blueprint rooms, as I mentioned. So those are the first couple of developments. My thermal processing lab, the players moving in, and it's started to feel like a village. Now the next few things that happened down this way, of course, Boucher set up his house here. He set up a little farm here. Ruddermouse over here. He built some pens. He went out and brought some chickens home. I had to wander about 400 blocks north of here to find some cows, but we do have at the moment, too much cows. Rut went and found pigs, so we got that. And a bit of a lag as we get near the cows because of all the darn entities. They're spawning like friggin' rabbits over here. So boy, I had to walk some 400 blocks with wheat in my hand to get 2 cows. I think I started with 8 of them, and only 2 of them made it all the way back. But that was just enough to get them breeding. Initially, we needed them for leather for books, but now they're just a big source of lag. Darn entities sitting around. That and the chickens spitting out those eggs all day long. Anyway, the next thing we set up over here, chronologically, was a little beehive. It's a little beehive-shaped building for handling my bees. It's really nothing fancy. It's just the chest of bees and a couple centrifuges powered by a little peat engine. And I put my bee-related stuff in here. I really haven't spent much time playing with the bees from the forestry mod. I've pretty much only been able to find desert bees, and I think these guys are done. Yeah, let me see if I can put them back to work. You didn't find anything useful. You bums. Alright, so they should be coming out of there again in a few seconds. There they go. Bees, look out. This was originally a patch of oil, and I did a little video showing how to pump oil out into a tank. One thing I always like to do in a village is set up a bulletin board or a project board. So what people can do, the players can come in here, grab a sign, post that they need some material here, and likewise if you have the material, like I was asking for uranium for my advanced solar panels, and if you have some of those materials, you can contribute them by dropping them in the box. So we always like to set up these little project boards. Around town, I've also set up some of these industrial craft crops with single crops on them. I have a crossbreeding facility elsewhere. But these follow a particular pattern. Originally, we would just do 8 blocks around a single block of water. And I raised them up because, as you know, if you step on them, you can kill your crops. But what happens with the 8 blocks around the patch of water is that a lot of times your drop will go in the water and you can't get to it without trampling your crops. So in the last month or so, I've learned that pretty much I've expanded, so now I'll do this sort of a pattern where there's 2 or 3 blocks of water in the middle going to an obsidian pipe, and then if any items happen to fall into the water, they go down into the obsidian pipe and directly into the chest, all by themselves. The other nice thing with this type of a setup is sometimes a player will be walking by and they'll just want to lend a hand so they can harvest a few things. You saw that one went into the water, and it would have gone through the pipe and into the chest already. But and also the chest is here so the players can just do a quick harvest, put the harvest in the chest, and if we ever need sugarcane, we can come out here and get it. One of the next things I always like to do is collect trees. So every place we go in the world, if I see a new type of tree, I will add it to my garden. And, spruce it up. This is didn't mean to say that, but this is a regular spruce tree. Pun not intended. Here's a firefly from the Twilight Forest mod. So, we collect little bits of other dimensions and bring them home, essentially. These little guys are from the autumn forest biome, from the extra biomes. And those colored trees actually produce specific saplings that will grow that type of tree. So each type of tree, I bring one home and plant it. There's over here and there, these are redwood trees, where we discovered that if you want to sprout a redwood tree, you have to put 4 saplings in a square, and then they'll grow a redwood tree. We were never able to grow a redwood tree from a single sapling. That's probably intentional. Here's a cicada from the Twilight Forest mod on a yellow autumn tree from the autumn woods biome. And here comes a skeleton to shoot me. Yeah, whatever, I'll just go over here. Well, one funny thing over here is that one of the first players to show up came and built a regular old farm, pretty much exactly the place where in the back of my mind I was planning to put a farm. So that was fun. Next thing I did was I set up a crossbreeding area for industrial craft crops, and I actually got results very quickly. Within a day or two I had stickweed, which of course gives sticky resin as well as regular reed products. And you can see I have this set up again with the water flowing towards an obsidian pipe, again to catch anything that might fall in the water. Now from the stick reeds, I managed to get a crop of coffee really quickly, which was fun. We got to zip around and play with coffee, and it was, it was cute for a while. Coffee gives you a little bit of a speed boost. And what generally I do is with these, I'll set up the crossbreeding facility. Here's a place where you can drop off your seed bags, and down here is my crop analyzer and my seed bank. So down here is the crop analyzer in the box with a power crystal. And once I've sorted them out, they all go into what will eventually be a much larger bunch of chests. And so again, so essentially I'm building a seed bank underneath the crossbreeding area, which is something I always do with my industrial craft crops. And again, obsidian pipes for quick, easy drop-off of items. But once I have a new crop of some sort, like the coffee over here, what I'll generally do is I'll build a single section of just that crop. So here is our place where we can come and get way too much coffee. And I posted this note here because the first bunch of times I tried to harvest it, these beans were a very dark brown, and I didn't realize that they weren't ripe. So coffee is ripe when the beans are red, and not before. And once again, anything that falls into the water goes into the obsidian pipe, goes into the chest, and players are welcome to walk by and harvest and put stuff in the chest. So that's pretty much my industrial craft crop method. I breed them over here. Once I get something special, I'll make a special area for it. I know that's not optimal. You can keep crossbreeding these to try to get the best breeds of things, but we've already just got way too much of that particular item, so it's not that important. Next couple of things we built, that's an automated tree farm, but that is not in chronological order. After harvesting peat by hand for a long period of time, you can't wait to get some diamonds, to make some diamond electron tubes, to start making the more advanced forestry machines, like this one, which is an automated peat bog. The peat bog takes bog earth, automatically plants it in these patterns, and then the turbary here, which has no interface, it harvests when they turn into peat. It harvests the peat and automatically puts it in this chest. So this is where players can come to pick up their peat to fuel whatever they need fuel for. Various buildcraft engines. Now the way I came back later and tried to automate this, Elsewhere on YouTube, there is a very good video where a guy shows how to completely automate this whole process of feeding your peat bog. Essentially, what we have here is an endless water supply, a Buildcraft pump, which pumps the water to a couple of places. It pumps the water to the moistener room. I always try to put a helpful tip for the other players. Now, we're currently stocked up on mulch, so we don't need to keep filling this, but normally you would put wheat in these top slots and it would gradually process into mulch, and in the process it turns cobblestone into mossy stone. From there we would take the mulch and put it in the carpenter, which also has a supply of water from that pump, and the carpenter, you add the mulch and you get bog earth. Now, the reason we don't need to keep doing mulch is each piece of mulch, you can see you get 8 bog earth from it, so we're already set up for a long time. This is going to make 8 stacks of bog earth, so we're not going to need mulch for a while. But when I turn this engine on, the carpenter gets power and starts producing bog earth. And once that's made, this engine up top pumps it up top to the actual automated peat farm, which is right here. Now, what's interesting is that this pipe actually goes both directions. What the peat farm does is it replaces dirt with bog earth, and then it sends the dirt back down the pipe. And you can see once this engine is going at full speed that you get pretty much a constant stream of materials going up. At the moment, the peat bog is kind of full of bog earth, so I don't need to be producing any more right now. So I'll just... How much is there? 4? Yeah, we'll let that go up. But like I say, it's interesting. The peat bog up top sends the used up dirt back down here. The moistener provides us way too much mulch. So comically, what we run out of over here in the middle of the desert, we run out of sand in the carpenter. So, you know, it's a fun little engineering challenge to try to make all of these things work optimally. In this case, I don't have it quite right. That those other guys on YouTube have a system with some gates and some other things, and their system is completely automated. But that's the best we could do with just a couple of an hour or two to fiddle with it. The very next thing we built after the peat bog was that tree farm back there, and then this new sawmill. And there's something really funny about this. There's pretty much just a sawmill in there from thermal expansion. It's nothing really fancy. But what's funny about this building, you'll see that I made it out of logs, except for this side of it, which is made out of planks. Because comically what happened is when we turned on the tree farm, it immediately hacked up the side of this building. So apparently the tree farm chopping radius is a little bit wider than you would expect. So our tree farm immediately started eating the side of our sawmill, so I had to redo the side of the sawmill using planks instead of logs. And here's one of the fun side effects of a tree farm. Wherever you put a gate, there's a good chance it's going to put a darn tree there. Anyway, here's our tree farm. It runs about the same way as the peat bog does, where there's one master machine, in this case the Arboretum, that will plant humus and saplings all around the edge in the same approximate pattern. And then this block here, what is that one? I don't remember what that is. That block there, it actually cuts down the trees and puts all the logs and saplings and apples right in this chest next to it. So that's an interesting system. And again, we can drop off raw materials that end up over here to make more of the humus that the Arboretum needs to plant trees in. Now I have to do a little funny comedy note here. This word with one M is pronounced humus. Humus in the real world is a rich organic soil made from usually decaying leaves and some other things. And unfortunately, every video I've seen on YouTube has said that this is humus. Okay, humus is a rich organic soil, which you can get at any garden shop. Go ask. Humus is a mashed up chickpea blend dip that you dip pita bread in. It's a Greek slash Mediterranean food. So humus is the soil. Hummus is the dip made out of mushed up chickpeas. So please, people, stop saying that you're putting hummus in your arboretums to feed your trees. I mean, it's funny, but it's not technically right. Anyway, that's just a funny thing I just had to point out. And anyway, these lead downstairs to machines that make fertilizer and some other things. And just thought you'd want to see the tree farm in action. Sometimes you have to carve your way in there. And then the logs and stuff, we take them over to the sawmill. At some point I'll automate that with a pipe, but putting pipes under the desert is a bit of a chore. And anyway, let's take a quick look at the sawmill. From the factorization mod, I've got a couple barrels here with the different types of logs. The single peat engine powers a single sawmill, which will chop up the logs and make wood. It's currently out of power. But I love these factorization machines because the sides are configurable. This red side, as you can see, is connected here. So when you put a block in there, it will go from the blue space and process it. And instead of getting 4 blocks like you would get by hand, you get 6 blocks. And it automatically spits it out into the tube on the red side. And you can configure which sides are what color. Also, as a byproduct, the sawmill makes sawdust, which you can craft into compressed sawdust and cook it to get charcoal. You know, it's not really a super high value byproduct, but you know, you get free charcoal. Likewise, you get 6 wooden planks for each unit of wood you put in here. If you did it by hand, you'd only get 4. So the sawmill will give you extra planks and then give you charcoal for free. And we're so full on planks, we stick them in these crates, and we're done with them. Anyway, that was one of our more recent developments. You know, we set up the peat bog right out there, which harvests all the peat, puts it in a chest. Early on, we had lots of these peat engines running other machines. The tree farm is right out here. Whenever we need wood, we will turn it on for a while. Right now, we're really stocked up on logs, and that chest just keeps overflowing. So we don't need to run it all the time. But anyway, we have a neat little sawmill here to process it all. Plus the comedy of the tree farm starting to eat the sawmill. It took out the first 2 rows, as you can see, of the side of the sawmill. Everything else, the logs are safe. So if this helps you figure out the radius of destruction of your sawmill, then that's a good thing. Anyway, I'd say that was pretty much the second generation of this town. And I'll do one more episode on further expansions to this town, and then I'll run out and show you the 2 villages that we discovered off in the distance. And at that point, I would say that that's how the town got to be where it is. And any future videos or discussions I do, you can understand how it evolved and you know, where we're trying to go with the town and what new developments we're trying to do. So anyway, I will see you next time.